Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 a.m. Club. It's Wednesday, the Wednesday after Australia Day, and I'm back at work, back in the city, and as you can see, the beautiful blue skies of the past few days have made way now for overcast conditions. It's a little bit cooler today, a lot cooler today than what it was over the past few days. And we're just taking a bit of a break from the beautiful summer weather that we've been having here over the past week. Anyway, what I want to do today is just kick along and knock off another book summary. And today's book summary is entitled Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. So let's kick off and see what we can learn, where it's going to lead us, see if there's anything we can gain from it. But I'm sure that there'll be a few things here that all of us can learn because, as I've said time and time again, I don't think I've ever opened a book and read a book and not picked up something new or not been able to join some dots to previous knowledge that I've had. But this author is awesome. And he's awesome because of a quote. And I wasn't quite sure who actually said this, but this author's the person who coined the following quote. And it's a quote which is very, very powerful and very inspiring. And I'm not sure if you've heard it before. I've mentioned it a couple of times on Jim's 5 a.m. clubs. But it's a quote that is extremely profound. And it's something that I've found entertaining and very thought-provoking, to say the least. So here we go. This is what Dave Ramsey coined and said, and I guess he'll be known for this because it's an absolute beauty. The quote goes like this: "We buy things we don't need with money we don't have, to impress people we don't like." How funny is that? You just look around and you just see the way people behave and the way people consume and spend copious amounts of money buying things, and you always ask yourself, you know, where did they get the money to buy that? And why did they buy it in the first place? But according to this author here, we humans, in terms of our human behaviour, have some issues and some challenges, and we always go and buy things and spend money that we don't have to buy things that we don't need, just so that we can impress the people that we don't like. It's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? But it makes the world go round, it makes the world tick. And I guess if it wasn't for that, then the economies would come to a grinding halt, because there's only so much food, shelter and clothing that people can buy. You know, it's only when people start spending money on luxury items and experiences that the big money gets to change hands throughout the world. Anyway, let's kick off and talk a little bit more about the money makeover, because the author gives us some really good insights into how to manage our financial affairs, because everybody, regardless of how much money they have the same issues, that their spending outstrips their earning capacity. So even if you're a billionaire, you know, there is a potential that you could be spending more money than what you've got cash flow coming in, which will cause you stress, pain and suffering. And it's just a well-known fact that money causes challenges, and the more money people have, then there is a point and above where it just continues to create you headaches as opposed to solving your headaches. So the author gives us 3 points to consider, and the first point is to set aside some funds in an emergency fund. So set aside money in terms of savings into a fund that the author calls the emergency fund. And the reason why we need to do this, according to Dave Ramsey, is that there is research which suggests, I don't know how real this research is, but we've all felt it in our lives, and I guess it's probably true in most cases and for most people. The research suggests that almost up to 80% of people will experience a major bad event in any 10-year period throughout their lives. So in any 10-year period, chances are that people will suffer some sort of financial challenge, is what the author is suggesting. And in order to get through that, you need to have money that you've saved to be able to do and get by, is what the author is suggesting. So that's the first point that one needs to consider. And the author talks about saving $1,000 in an emergency fund, but it all depends on your financial capability, your capacity. But the author then suggests that you start with 1,000 and you build from there, and you build your savings to a point where your emergency fund can manage any hiccups that you have along the way in terms of your financial health. Because there are times that we need to get through, and we have issues along the way, and it's only when you get 2 or 3 issues that come together that you have a tsunami effect where your financial position can be impacted, which can cause great financial distress, and it could also probably lead to your bankruptcy if you're not careful. So the next point that the author makes is where he talks about how we start a debt snowball, where we start paying back our debts, and you start from your smallest debt first, and then build up from there, because you build up a head of steam, according to this author, and it has a snowball compounding effect. So the way we do it is we list all our debts. We list all the money that we owe and who we owe it to, and then we sort it by smallest to largest. So the smallest amount of debt that you have to the largest. And the author then encourages us and invites us to start paying those debts off, starting with your smallest debt and then growing to your largest debt one at a time. Because this technique that the author brings to us builds confidence. And with the confidence, the brain gets flooded by endorphins, those pleasure hormones. And the more pleasure you get, the more momentum you get, and the more debt you pay off, the happier you become, the less debt weight you have on your shoulders, and you can continue to pay off your debts and welcome new debts, because you've built a habit of being able to pay off the money that you owe, rather than to continue to grow your debt without paying anything off. So the author suggests that we consider putting 10% of our salary or our earnings away and use that to pay down debt. So the third point that the author talks about is getting back to the emergency fund that we talked about earlier and doing something a little bit more sexy with the emergency fund. And the author says that one thing that successful people do, or people who have foresight, financial foresight and planning, one of the things that they do is that they grow their emergency fund until it covers your expected expenses for at least 3 months. So that $1,000 that we started off with putting away, so you've got to start off small. You've got to prove to yourself that you're capable of putting money aside and not just blowing it all the time on things to get back at the people that you don't like, and to build your emergency fund to the point where you can survive, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months without having any income coming through the door. Because the author says, and we all know this, we've seen it time and time again, we've experienced it time and time again in our lives, we've seen it through our parents, through our families, through our work peers, that the worst financial setbacks are the ones that creep up on us without us even realising. Where you wake up one day and all of a sudden, your job's been made redundant, your private school fees are due, your car breaks down, and somebody gets sick, for example. All of these things happen, and they just happen. That's just life. So you've got to be ready for it. But just knowing that you can survive 3 to 6 months is so comforting and builds tremendous confidence that it enables you to take bigger risks and to do things that you wouldn't normally do because you've got the safety net happening in the background. And with that safety net, as we said, we can do things. We can be cheekier. We can be far more adventurous with the things that we take on because we know we've got something to fall back on, something that we've diligently worked to put away. So the author suggests that maybe use an additional 5% of your salary, your earnings, to build your emergency fund every week, every month, every year. So that 5% that you use to build the emergency fund, plus the 10% that you use to pay off your debt, works out to be 15% of your earnings. And the author says that if you're putting away 15%, or if you're hiving away 15%, then for most people you won't even realise that it's missing. So something to consider, something to look forward to doing. And once you build this skill and it starts building, then you become better at it. Because the final point that the author makes is that debt is by far your worst expense that you'll ever have in your life, because debt, depending on the interest rates that you're being charged, and if it's on a credit card, it's going to grow over time unless you're knocking it off and managing it and maintaining it. So that's basically it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. That's today's book summary from Jim's 5am Club. The book is entitled Total Money Makeover from Dave Ramsey, where he teaches us how to set up an emergency fund, and by building that emergency fund so that it can cover 3, 6, 9, 12 months of our life should we ever have a real emergency, and also to look at paying down debt from the smallest debt to the biggest debt. I absolutely love this 5am Club, and I find this sort of information these learnings are very, very powerful, and I'll certainly be taking them under my wing and using them, and also suggesting them to friends, family and work associates where appropriate. So let's finish off with a positive affirmation. I'm alive, I'm well, and I feel absolutely great. To my friends and family, stay connected, stay relevant, stay reasonable, and most importantly, let's stay financially astute and have things under control wherever we can, and pay down our debts and build our savings so that we can take bigger risks and achieve better returns, because we know that we've got a safety net behind us, we've got a safety net underneath us, and we know that we can survive a certain amount of time if times get tough, and we know that times will get tough for each and every one of us, because over your career, your job will be made redundant. You will be out there looking for a job without significant income coming through. The share market will correct, and it will crash. The property market will correct and take a breather, and tenants will leave, and you may be having a challenge to get a bank approval. But if you've got your emergency fund in place, then this will help you get through these tough times and allow you to confidently grow, develop and become the best possible version of yourself, because you know you've done your homework and the groundwork. So thank you, and I'll chat to you again later on in the day, delivering another book summary from Jim's 5am Club. If you like ya, and we'll talk again. Bye for now.